Hey folks, we are going to continue working on artwork here for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration supplement that we've been designing for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm going to check my signal here to make sure I'm live and direct, and see if I'm coming through okay here. Mic check, 1 2 3. Okay here, mic check 1 2 3. Okay here, mic check 1 2 3. That sounds very check 1 2 3. That sounds very check 1 2 3. That sounds very mic check mic. All right, that sounds good. Sorry guys, took a moment there for us to get to where we needed to be. Okay, cool. So I'm going to do my intro spiel here for folks that are catching us in the future. Hey, future, bounce ahead a minute or two if you want. If you're already familiar with the intro, you don't need to hear who I am again. You already know what's going on. But for those that are just now tuning in or are new to the channel, hey, welcome to the mix. My name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements. I publish them online. How do I say that? I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and then I publish them online. There you go. I have a slew of links in the description down below to previous works that I've created. They're all published on DMsGuild using Wizards of the Coast IP content. They all have extensive free previews. So if you are if you're here for pixels and artwork, there's probably about 150 different illustrations among the books that are in there. You can click on the full preview button that's underneath the cover image for each of the individual books to pop open a PDF. If you are on a mobile device, there'll be an eye icon on the right-hand side of the screen. Either way, pop open PDF. It'll have an extensive free preview for you to take a look through. Probably about 150 illustrations across the lot of the stuff that's inside of there specifically. And if you are looking, if you're a 5e enthusiast or a DM or a player looking for ideas and stuff, I run campaigns from level 1 to 20 in about 200 to 250 hours before starting over again. So most of the stuff that I publish are things that I needed for me to be able to build out the campaign that I wanted to run, or are the discovery during the process of running one of those campaigns that were cool enough to build into books. So in either circumstance, let's see, how do we do this? We'll create. Hold on. Let me get too far ahead of myself. I'm out of sequence. Let me go ahead and peel this back so you guys can take a look at what we're doing here. I just posted that I'm live on Twitter. If you're on Twitter X, you can follow me at Phil Kearney if you'd like. I'm looking for, hoping to have your like, subscription, and bell icon to get notifications in the future. We're already up to 238 subscribers. Thanks, guys. We're pushing to 500. So if you're new to the stream or at the end of the stream, if you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, bell icon, very much appreciated. So thanks a lot, guys. And thanks already. Thanks for being here, guys. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, great. So we created this book. We created this cover around episode 15 of the stream. We're currently at episode 265, so you can jump back into the playlist to go check out us creating this book cover if you're interested. And like I said, I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and then I publish them online. So when we have an idea like ship combat that operates like normal 5e combat, and we want to bring that to D&D, we have to play test it. Once the testing is good and the fun is had, we know we've got something. So then we hire an editor to help us clean up how the words sound. So it's so the words are good, and once all the pages are, all the text on all the pages are broken down into bite-sized ideas, like this. Theurgy. Come on, buddy. You choking on me? Thank you. Okay, great. So yeah, we break down all the text on the individual pages here, and then this leaves all these gaps in the text on the page. So then we'll extract each of these pages as a separate PDF that we'll then import here into Photoshop. We can then illustrate them. So once the illustrations are all done, we'll export them all back out into Photoshop or into the MS Word program that I use for processing. Once all the images are dropped into the book, we'll seal it into a PDF. We'll publish it on DMsGuild, and there'll be a link for you guys to check out the free preview. But beyond that, there's about 72 tokens that we're going to include in a zip file for all the ships and a lot of the creatures that are 50 or larger feet in size to combat ships. We also have a full conversion guide. It's a 26-page conversion guide for Light of Xeraxis, using all of these mechanics in the Light of Xeraxis adventure as presented by Wizards of the Coast 5e. So we have all the tokens for all the characters, the NPCs, the creatures, and the ships that are inside of the Light of Xeraxis adventure as well. So when you pick this up, you're not only getting a conversion toolbox for you to have more physics, more understanding of how systems move, how planets move, moons move, how you can navigate through space, how you can have point crawl or hex crawls in space, combat in space using 5e mechanics that you're already used to, the same tempo of speed, working as a team or individually. Yeah, there you go. So let's get back to work here. I had a hey, how about that for perfect timing? So we got a 20-minute marker kicking off here. We're currently at 6:40, so we got about probably about 80 minutes that we get to work on this morning. If you tuned in with us last time, yesterday I was having a debacle about getting the perspective to work on these buildings, and I think I've sussed it out at this point. So we've got our damselfly here in the foreground. Took a friend to the channel, Karen, who swings by, had the suggestion of having some dead trees, so we decided to start killing them right up front here, which actually takes care of some of the perspective issues I was having with the windows that we're aligning in here. So we're going to get back on task with these buildings back in the back, y'all, in here, and we're just going to keep on keeping on with building buildings, huzzah, building buildings, huzzah, because buildings got to get built, y'all. Where was I? Why was I chasing this is? Nah, that's going to go like that, and these are all going to end up being trash. You're trash. This is where we're at. So this is where we'll be. Let's just do this. Hey, what's up, Hornetico? It's been a while, my guy. How you been? How's the rendering coming along in the computer programming? Bang, 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 bang. Where am I at? Where's my lair? There we are. Ow. Boo-doo. So far, so good. So what? Where's my guidelines? Dropping my perspective lines a bit. We're doing okay around here. Hold on. I'm just getting my orientation here real fast. Make sure I'm sitting in the right place that I want to be in. This is actually pretty useful after all. Let's the perspective's completely wonk, unfortunately, but the bones are good. Where are we at? Come on, dog. Dirty softly, darling dog. There we are. Hey, text wall. I am rearranging my windows to be able to read these things easier. So let's see. The rendering animation is going good. Excellent. About there. I've had a bit of free time consumed by rekindle love of mutants. No kidding. No kidding. Come back, huh? So I've been playing one. That's fantastic, guy. I mean, all we can really do is find a game that we love to play and just play the fuck out of it, right? So I'm just, no, I don't think this is where I'm at in this stage right now. I'm going to just leave those platforms as is, and let's grab that, and let's grab that, and let's see what we can build. Recognizing that these buildings are not lining up is important. We were originally thinking that I wanted to have that swoop. Perspective is a bitch, especially when things aren't actually like all just squares facing the proper angle. Like getting things to be off angle because of like embankments and stuff. It's a challenge. That's for sure. That's what I've been struggling with here this week. I'm so anxious to get out of this specific painting. It is so overstayed its welcome for me. I've got 9 more to finish, but none of them are as severe as this. Mostly anything that's of this same like half-page size is just environmental stuff, and not even like heavy detail stuff like this is. Like this is a heavy detail painting. Yeah, it has, and right on. Glad to hear it. You know, facilitate what we want to do when starting level characters can lift a continental shelf instead of diving to a column. Well, I mean, hey, if you know what your game is supposed to be doing, then you can stay true to your game. You know, I mean, that's kind of a dumb, no-brainer kind of statement, but it's totally true. You got to really understand what you're trying to achieve so that you can lean into the narrative that you intend. So that people that pick up the game end up having fun in the style of play that they're expecting to have fun. You know what? Hey, I was listening to Taryn's conversation about the new UA yesterday, and Taryn Pound, Indestructible Boy, for those that don't know that are listening to the Third Wall. Or hey, Fourth Wall. Whoa. And he was just saying that D&D has an identity issue right now, and I certainly do not disagree with that intent. But the specific thought I was having here was him talking about watching the game developers play in like Dimension 20 and stuff like that, like, you know, knowing what they're doing. And my comment in the moment here is that, you know, it's if you're playing, if you're going to do a live stream game, it's it'd be nice to have the game tempo and focus on the type of activities the game is designed to do. Like if it's a combat simulator game, it'd be nice to have more cool, fast-moving, 8 encounter a day combats demonstrated at a live table by the professionals that get paid 6 digits a year to make the game that way. To see how they actually play the game is it seems that most tables just really de-emphasize combat altogether, either because it's not fun or it's a grind. And I myself, the Martial Powers playtest that we're going to be doing here in the new year, I'm hoping is going to be an opportunity for me to do a really deep dive analysis into that play loop to get to a place where we're having 3-4 round combats frequently over the course of a game day, and that it feels fun and engaging, not tedious. So that is my grand attempt, because I also generally run less than 8 encounters per. Well, I don't know about encounters. Like I do a lot of traps and puzzles, and I'm exploration / trap puzzles probably about like 70% of the time, and then like maybe like 20% social, like interaction and just character malarkey, and then maybe like 10% is combat. Like seriously, for this combat simulator game that I love to play, I focus a lot of time and attention on not combat, and that is that's a personal preference style, and it's also kind of evolved from the past 5 years me running a lunchtime game that has very small blocks of 90-minute time period that really requires me to analyze, 5 people at the table, 90 minutes to play. What can I do to crack through different sort of encounters or different scenarios so that they're playing D&D, but we're still, we got to go back to work. So that's been a really fun exploration, and I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say intimidated is the right word, but I've been playing I've been playing Lunchroom for the past 5 years. That's been my primary table, and I've only had some playtesting opportunities in the past 2 years for me to really break up that pattern of gaming. So I'm really gearing myself back into the mindset of your characters can actually die, and I'm going to have to hold your attention for like 3 or 4 hours at a time. So I am in the process of reflexing my muscles, if that's the proper word for what it is that I do. This feels right. That feels right. Yeah, why don't we just make little boxes to begin with, and then we can just fancy them up a little. Christ willing, I'll be able to get a decent chunk of these done today. Maybe if I can humble myself and let the muse jump in here and run the show for a while, I'll be able to get some progress done, and I'll have to second guess myself on it. Hey Karen, how you doing? Hey Karen, check it out. Dead tree. and it solved that perspective issue I was having with this front window corner. So, cheeky solution, but it was yours. So, thanks a lot for that, Karen. Let's get back here into the micro. Yeah, it's great. And then that just sets up a good formatting for me to have more trees drop, in wherever, just to break it up. So, but you're right. We need to have that variety in here. Excuse me, guys. Still shaking off this day 8 of my cold. Lord knows. My tummy's already angry. Feed me, Seymour. Feed me. Get that angle line up for you here. Drop that perspective a touch. Pull that in. Merge. Then actually pull this like that a bit. Yeah, I don't think they're going to last long in this environment, though. Wood is a valuable resource on this ring world, so you can't just take away all their dead because they need it to part of the cycle of life, rearrange and stuff. Maybe that's part of some sort of a forestry thing they've got going on. Maybe they have like some ultra militant rangers and druids that hang out here that insist that we leave tree corpses laying around occasionally. That'll do, pig. Drop this in here. I spy with my eye. So much easier for me to read text here now. Dead trees, perhaps. Perhaps. Yeah. There's front scrubbage here that we'll be able to figure out some cool anatomy and stuff for. And I may need to resize these copes of trees a little bit. I'm gonna see. Hopefully, I'll be able to push my way. I can see myself. I'm attempting to do detail. This is like a pseudo detail level here. That's at least blocking in the forms that we're using without going into like windows and detail like that. But chomp, chomp, chomp. Let's do just a touch of skew, and then drop. No, that needs to be a little bit bigger. Perspective. I has it. Give us a tilt. Yeah, okay. We can probably platform there. The gift of no regret. It's a bunch of shoe boxes first. I'll evolve the thing into something cooler. A little more ornate. Dum 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 pom pom dum dum pom dum pom. So what I'm thinking about doing is so you have a hex crawl. Well, I do grids. I do square grids in this system because of the scaling that we have from 5 foot to 5 billion feet. It's all on the same square grid. So the idea that I'm having here is that it's an asteroid belt resource mining campaign that the team has. A mining company that they're basically overseeing. So the idea here is that we have a hex crawl or a grid crawl. I guess we'll call it grid crawl. I'm so used to calling it hex crawl, but we're sticking with a square grid. So we'll call it a grid crawl. So we're working on this grid crawl here, right? And so each of these squares, like say that's a 10-mile square. So 10 mile, then 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever. These things can do millions of miles per day, right? So like distance isn't really a big issue. It's just the scale of movement that they're interacting with that matters. So you can have two things. You can have a home base somewhere off in the distance where they're going to eventually go back to and drop all their ore that they're gathering and get refined into a resource that can then be exchanged for money or new equipment or whatever. It's their resource factory, their home base that they go off of the grid back home to dump off their supplies and then go back into the grid with an empty ship for them to refill with supplies, right? So you got home base, which will probably be like a dwarven fortress sort of thing. Hi. And then there'll be the transport, the mining ship itself, which will be like maybe like a start off at like say 200 feet and evolve into a 500-foot carrier sort of thing. So as they gain more wealth, they can have a larger structure that they're able to basically it's a freighter, right? So they're taking this freighter into the asteroid belt as a collector. But then off of that are the little prospecting ships and fighter craft to engage with the shit that they're going to run around inside of here. So the thought is that like this, like the larger scale grid, you know, we might be a million miles away from our carrier, which isn't all that far. But then the smelting factory. So then we send our carrier into the grid, and here inside of the grid, each of these grids breaks down to a smaller scale grid. So here at this scale, if this is 10 miles here, then this is 1, 2, 3. Theoretically, like if I'm going to, let's hit the button. If I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to have a 10 by 10 grid here. I could theoretically have like a 3 by 3 here, 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 but then I got this slop space in between. So a 3 by 3, 3 by 3, 3 by 3, and then I've got this 4 by 4 chunk in the middle of it. So I could have like a 4 by 4 here, and this would be 4 by 4, and this would be 4 by 4, and this would be 4 by 4, and this would be 4 by 4. So it'd be 3, 4, 3, and then the next one would also be 3. No, this would only be, this would be 3 by 4. 4. So I'm trying to figure out the math on all this stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, but 1, 2, 3. So it's not consistent, bouncing between 3 and 4. But when you're actually inside the 10 by 10 grid, I wonder, you can break it up into, like I'm trying to think about like breaking things up into chunks, because we're also going to be doing the Martial Powers playtest, which is also going to be a point crawl. So I'm trying to think about how do I break up, because breaking up the grids by the 10s has been really easy for combat, scaling from 5 feet to 50 feet to 500 feet. But then if I'm going to do a scaling point crawl inside of a square map like this, like how to put it, the reason my brain is choking right now and I'm having this debate at all is because I don't want to just present a here we go. Let's go back here. I don't want to just there. Okay, that'll work. I don't want to just present a 100 square grid. It's like, here you go. Well, I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's a decent way to start. Like, here's your grid, your 10 by 10 grid for you to clear the space. That actually might be the better way to do it. I'm trying to think about, like, if I'm going to enter a new square and I'm going to have a 10 by 10 square space that we're going to operate inside of. That's kind of the core of the mechanics we have going on inside the book here. But then I guess I could take so a D100 would work off of that. This is a tangent. Sorry. This is the kind of stuff that I'm starting to think about. Like, this is starting to percolate inside my brain about how to lay this stuff out. Like, if I'm going to do a grid and you're going to zoom into the grid, how do we divide up the grid into regions, like sub-regions inside of the grid? And ultimately, I want to have like a 3. I'm thinking I want to have a 3 by 3 pattern that sits inside of each one of them. So you have these quadrants, or they're not, I mean, like they're ninedrants. these thirds that you can break the chunk up into. So you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You only have 9 regions inside of each square that you have to take into account. So as a DM, I'm trying to think what's the best way for me to break these things up. And like on a hex crawl sort of thing, like in the Ravnica hex crawl, like deal with this hex, deal with this quadrant, and then I'm going to move into another area. So like I can process one segment here as a short rest, short rest, short rest, short rest, short rest, long rest, and then you can pick which grid you want to move on through. Or if like we're here, we're going to go like deal with this short rest, deal with this short rest, deal with this long rest, and then we're going to obviously jump into this grid after the long rest, and we're on the new day. And then this would break up into chunks as well. So I'm trying to segment this thing. Since D&D is built around 2 short rests and a long rest, that tells me that the world should be broken up into thirds. And so I just want to find a way for me to be able to sort of wishy-wash my way into making this work. Because it's 9, that'd be a 3 by 3 by 3, and that'd only leave like one random strip of one mile or whatever that's kind of just like laying around out here. It's not being used as a off border sort of feeling, but that doesn't feel natural. So I'm having this floating, like this floating remainder whenever I make the square grid, and I want to break them down into segments that aren't divisible by 10. And it's probably not as big of an issue as I'm making it, because I can just sort of eyeball it. But when I zoom in on this eyeballing, I'm going to have to put some sort of math to it. So I'll probably 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's probably how I'll actually break it down. Maybe we'll just have maybe it'll just be a variable. 2, 3. Or maybe I don't have to actually sweat it that hard. Like a human can walk 3 miles in an hour. So you can theoretically have each of these squares as 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Like you're going to start in a square. And if you wanted to finish off this square, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How about that? 8 hours spent in a day. If I'm going to explore each square in 1 hour, I can, again, break down a square further and further into smaller details. The math isn't 100% there, but I can feel it. I can feel it. And I know I'm not in the wrong here, because D&D didn't go with hexes as their overland map because it was the better system. They went with it because they just recommended that you play Survivor, which was a hex-based survival game, as your overland movement. They're like, if you want to play D&D in the wilderness, you can play Survivor, and when you run into an encounter, Final Fantasy style, you can zoom into that combat, and now you're at the 10-foot square. For outdoors, it's what is it? It's 10 inches is 10 yards. Yeah, it's a 30-foot square outside of the dungeon, and then it's a 10-foot square inside of the dungeon. Like, their scaling is all over the place in the original Beckme D&D, but that is the legacy that founds the reason why we're using hexes in large-scale movement and then zooming into a square for combat movement. That inconsistency, I want to get rid of that inconsistency to keep that square language throughout the entire game. And it all works until you really sweat about the details, about if I'm going to move, these 3 squares inside of this 1,000 mile, like this is a 1,000, so this is a 3,000 by 3,000 mile square here, because the description here describes this as sitting inside of 1,000 mile square. So there you go. And I think I'm sweating the math a lot more than I need to, but so that's a thing I'm struggling with right now. For anyone that gave a crap, and I know there's a solution to it, and it's just it's not like D&D decided that hexes were easier. D&D just offloaded the project to say, hey, if you want to do outdoor stuff, go play this game instead. And since that's already built, we're just going to riff off of those rules. That's as far into it as they got. They didn't have some sort of master thought process about, well, what are we going to do about transitioning from squares to hexes? It's just, it was already there. It was easy for them to do it. So I guess D&D really does have a long history of just being lazy. So I guess that's hey, I'm punching up already. Good for me. But seriously, that's like, that legacy is only there because it's legacy. They didn't have a deep conversation about it. They've justified it, but it was never their core philosophy. It was just to offload it to somebody else that already made a game that was easy for them to say, hey, go play this thing since you're looking for an answer. So I'm trying to deconstruct that mentality and continue building on this infinite scaling system that we've already got inside of here to be able to more practically transition out of combat into exploration, but still keeping that same feeling, that same mode of process that the characters are going to be inside of while dealing on the deck of the ship into the environment around them. I want to keep that square. Obviously, I want to keep that square space. I've beat that drum enough. I think you guys get that. This is one of the noodles that's unraveling inside the back of my head, and I know that when it finishes unspooling, we're going to be okay. And I think ultimately what it's going to mean is I'm not going to have to sweat the details nearly as hard as I think I need to. It'll probably just really easily just kind of fall into place with us. Let's take this. Take this chunk here. I find a really innate step in this subsystem or game system creation process really is reliant on exploring, like, why do these things exist? Why is the combat resolution done the way it is? Why are these particular dice used? What's the use of this segment of time as an action that can be spent as a character or a team? Like, breaking down all these different components of what makes the game engine, like, just work is a really great opportunity to not only to look at what can be better, but to just to get a really good understanding of how the game itself just runs, like how the engine runs, and building variant mechanics and rules and whatevers for a game system that already exists. You're offloading a lot of the game work, like I was just saying, like with the outdoor stuff with the original BECME. You're offloading a lot of game design to a third party that's already thought it through for you. Part of designing a supplement for a game that already exists is making use of those mechanics as they already stand. I feel like I want to connect these two things. But it really is useful to question and to really break down and analyze all the different components of the game that you're playing, so that while we are creating new variant mechanics to use that system, understanding better how/why the changes that you make are going to affect the game, and being able to properly assess, is this good for the game, is this bad for the game, are we breaking the game by doing this, blah 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 and blah. There we go. Why? What is going on there? Huh? Where are you coming from? Oh. Okay. Legit. There. Sally forth. Oops, looks like I picked up some slop down here on accident. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What the what? And the deuce? Some slop going on down here, Kearney. What are you doing? Get that shit up. I think my next step of evolution here as a streamer is me being able to rant and keep my eye on the project at the same time. That appears to be a skill set that I'm in the process of developing. When I get on a rant, I throw my hands around and then I stop painting because I'm excited about what I'm talking about. And that is, at this point, I recognize slowing down production. So I need to make sure that I continue developing in a space where I can still be able to have presence here and hang out with everyone while still getting stuff done. That's the irony of it. A lot of times I want to stream because if a project's intimidating me, I'll attempt to procrastinate, and streaming is a way to prevent me from procrastinating. But if I procrastinate by just talking about something completely different than what I'm working on, I'm just performing. My procrastination becomes a performance, which might, potentially pick up audience and accumulate interest from people, but it's not achieving the goal of punching the product out. I've got a significant backlog of work that I need to get done, and I have some editing revisions I need to get to in the Eberron project for me to be able to get the next chunk of the content from my editor. So I need to make sure I'm getting all my P's and Q's resolved. And I'm running into action economy issues. The amount of spoons I'm holding right now is I'm damn near full. You got a lot of front deck going on there, buddy. What is up? Let's I don't know, let's build. Black that in. Should definitely blacken the rooftops, I think. Or the flat tops for me to then put a roof on. Like that. Helps cube them up a bit. Keep the perspective. It feels right. Merge. Merge stone, do it. I'm gonna do it. Watch me do. That perspective is also off. Let's fix that bridge. It's kind of a flat bridge, don't you think? But we need to curve that up at all, yeah. Curve it up a touch. Nice. I like that. Just doing a little self-audit here with you guys. Just making sure I got my shit straight. I'm not bullshitting myself about where I'm trying to be, where I'm at. getting close to New Year's resolution time, and I like to have a few months of cycle uptime thinking about what changes in my life I want to make, so that when I make them, they can stick. It's a decent sized bridge. That bridge is big enough for me to almost put something on it. It was pain. Pump, pump. Let's do this. I do like architecture a lot. This stuff is a lot of fun. No lies. Hey, timely timer. Let's take a sip of coffee. Yeah, insignificant details here that I'm really sweating over, but we all know it's here, and it's something I can do, and if we can do it, I want to do it. We do what we must because we can. But now that I'm getting a decent beat on this process and you guys are seeing the redemption of yesterday, then I will be able to continue attacking all of this architecture overnight and probably get to the point where we're doing heavier details tomorrow. Something I want to do? Probably not. I think I just want to leave that solid color. I love these little fun details, though. They're so much fun to detail. Details are fun to detail. That's very Derek. Look at that useful little guideline. Thanks for lining that up for me there, Chummo. Chumley. Hello, Kingsley. I need to bear caution. Yeah, that logic is there. Oh, let's just get rid of that real quick. And blip, blip. Let's fix your face, son. Just a bunch of shoe boxes right now. And if we are successful, we'll be able to line up, get the rest of this architecture done by this evening, and when we come back tomorrow, we can be doing all sorts of fun little details and quirky stuff to make each of these buildings and these little sub neighborhoods and districts and stuff stand out for themselves without having to slaughter ourselves on the details. This is about where we're at with this, though. So let's put a front on this. Let's block it off. There's a rising demand for mecha in Dungeons and Dragons, and I am excited that we can provide a solution for that. Just takes a little time. I spy with my text. Hey, what's up? This is turning into a nice community. Yeah, it's a neat little thing. I'm really happy with it. Get some of these stilts down. I don't have to murder myself on the details. I can just hint them in there like that, and then we'll have to add in the little river flow, the current going through there, and like this is the amount of detail that I'll need to put like a little like some sparks of light for like buildings and stuff in here. But once I get into here and closer, I can start putting in little specks for like actual window structures, and then filling some of them with light and others not. Put the roofs on these things, but this level of detail is pretty minimal, but it's pretty easily extracted out from this one. So I think okay, so what I'm predicting is as being a potential issue is this foreground transition, because we're looking at getting to a place where we can have people coming out of this house here, and this foreshortening, like if I get rid of the ship here, you can see you have this ledge here that's going to be a drop, just like we have like a drop off this ledge here down to a lower elevation. Here and here, these buildings that are up front right against the edge of this elevation is where it's really going to show. Like that's where that's like the kicker, right? Like these trees are barely reaching the top of where this rock is at. So the foreshortening, or the perspective, there's a forced perspective by going off that cliff and looking over stuff. And I'm being conscientious about, I don't think I pronounced that right, conscientious about the scale and size of the background buildings moving forward through this mid plane here. So that's where I am at right now, feeling intimidated about potentially the scale of objects that we're working with. So I can't let myself be too intimidated, but I can acknowledge the fear before pushing forward. It's always fine to be afraid. It's always fine to be afraid, because you can't control what emotions you're going to have. You can only, well, if you listen to my philosophies enough, you can't even really control the actions that you can take as a result of the fears that you feel. But there is, oh, that's a tree tip. That's funny. Like, ultimately, the only thing that we can really have free will over is the narrative that we tell ourselves about why it is that we're doing what we're doing. Whether we view ourselves as a villain for doing things that we wish we wouldn't do, or a hero for doing the things that we're proud that we've done. Because we don't know what we're going to say, we don't know what we're going to do, and we don't know what we're going to regret in the process of either one of them. But there it is. That's stuff that happens to you. You're a part of whatever that scenario is now, and whether you like it or not. So our job as humans is basically to, after the moment, narrate what it is that's going on inside of us that leads us to do the things that, hurt the people we hurt or help the people we help. Find ourselves doing things out of character that we wouldn't otherwise normally do, that we then have to update our own opinion about ourselves as to what am I capable of doing, why am I doing what I'm doing. Like, fear is the announcement that something's happening and that you're going to be a participant in it. Get ready. Doors open in 10 seconds. Get ready. 3, 2, here you go. And then you're off, and now you're terrified of whatever it is that you're doing, but you get through it and it's a done thing. I'm super loose, vague details in this conversation. I know. Okay, I think I can lock that down. Neat. Okay, I'm happy with that side. For now. Now we got the other side, so let's start looking at a perspective, blocking things in, blah, blah, blah. Got these little stairs going on down here. Yeah, these little platform things that are happening. Like, this could be legitimately a really fun environment just to run around inside of. It'd be hell of a map. But it'd be fun as a platformer or like as an exploration game. This stuff would be a lot of fun. Let's make sure I spy with my eye an opportunity to do better. Let's yeah. Get rid of those guidelines. Now we should probably keep those guidelines around. Drop through opacity just a touch more. And where are we at? Midline here. Good. Dolp, dolp. right size? Yeah. It's about the right size. Yeah, that feels about right. About like that. Feels about a right angle there. There we go. What's up? Yeah, no kidding. It's a fun little environment. I'm low key interested in fleshing it out into a community. Just the premise of like a rim world that's like a strip of rock that you can build on around the planet. I love that. It's just such a fucking fun little thing. The in second edition there was a setting called Astromundi. It was a Spelljammer first, kind of like how Dark Sun was like, let's build a world around psionics. Like psionics was their main drive. Like, we're gonna do psionics with this, and so they built the entire world around making psionics work. Astromundi is an asteroid cluster system that it's nothing but asteroids, and it's got a Lithid and Yogi and all sorts of different races that are running around inside of it. But it's an entire box set devoted just to the premise of Spelljammer and building space colonies and stuff. And I never got into it. I'm aware of it, and I've become a lot more aware of it hanging out on Spelljammer discords. But I think I'd be crazy to not think that heralding back to second edition like that is. I can't say it's not inspiring me to some of these ideas that we're having about what I'm illustrating in this book, and I'm pretty happy about that. I don't know enough about Astromundi to be able to comment on it much more, other than, as I understand, there's not really any planets larger than like maybe 100 miles. I could be wrong about that, but pretty much what I've been told is like everything is like plane, it's like planar gravity, everything's small scale. That like all the gift cultures and stuff that grew up inside of that space are. I need to change this. Don't have a central planet as like the core foundation for the setting, like where adventuring takes place. It's like little platformy things like this make a lot of sense in that type of environment. I also had a campaign that was where the characters lived on the branches of Yggdrasil. And like they knew it was Yggdrasil, so they knew that there was like, if you went down a branch too far, you could end up in a completely different world and get lost. It's like, don't go wandering off, kids. You might end up in hell. That was a really fun campaign because like all the communities were little clumps, like little tree clumps, and it was all, until you could fly, it had to be point crawl because you had to move down one branch to get to a segment that could push you up or further down towards the trunk. And the further towards the trunk you got, the higher level threats would get. You'd run across larger and larger creatures because they could be supported by the weight of the larger branches. So there was security and safety way out in the edges of the branches where the truly like I can eat you in one bite-sized creatures can't, like, their weight wouldn't really allow them to be supported on the boughs of these trees. So humanity and all those smaller species ran out and hid there. But those far branch edges is where the portals would lead to other realities. So I guess in a sense it like has that sort of like Planescape 5e Outlands sort of feel to it, where everything was kind of like teetering on the edge. That was a lot of fun, but that lent itself to little small, like little community breakouts like this that we're doing. So this is I guess to say hardly the first time that I've had the opportunity to explore into this space with these sort of communities. But God, I haven't thought about that campaign for that. That was actually a Call of Cthulhu campaign, of all things. We blended 3rd edition COC with what 3E D&D was, and it was a high horror campaign where almost all the monsters that they ran across would drive up their insanity. So the very act of going into a dungeon and exploring pushed your sanity limits. So you had only so much time you could spend underground, or like in the roots of the system. Like all the tunnels were like beehives, like ancient forgotten massive insect swarms, or the branches were thick enough that like massive scale termites would carve paths through them. That's where all the dungeons came from. So there were all these like insectile and fungus-based creatures that would dwell in these dungeon environments of the tree. And again, it would drive you insane if you were in there too much. So it forced the team out of the dungeons to take long rests and to do downtime activities because their brains were breaking from the shit that they had to deal with down there. And I never really thought about developing that out further, but like that's the like what is that that new role-playing game that everyone's all excited about, Dungeon. I can't remember the name of it. It's like an off-Beckme thing that got kickstarted that was really popular this past year. But that horror, like accumulating strain and horror underground. It's not 5 Torches Deep. It's I can't remember the name of it. Trent Monkson or Mike Shea's into it. Lazy DM. Shadow Dark. Thank you. Yes. God bless you. Yes, Shadow Dark. That's that insanity mechanic for like time spent underground is an accumulating insanity pool, or a madness pool, as it were. That would be a really good Shadow Dark mechanic. I don't know if it's already baked into the system or not, because I don't know enough about Shadow Dark to say one way or the other. But that sort of like 5 Torches Deep as well has that sort of feel, where more time spent underground is putting you more and more at risk of going crazy. Which I guess is a politically incorrect way of putting it these days. Hell, I don't know. But that's the gist. Yeah, right on. I really have such limited time between my day job, family, building books, and actually running my own campaign. It really forces me to limit my palette on the type of stuff that I play. I don't think I lament that. I'm not sad about it at all. It's just I also have to acknowledge and recognize that my experiences at this stage are like I have to specialize because of the workload that I give myself. But I like seeing the other games that are coming out, but so few of them, when I look at them, is like, what am I really gaining out of this other, like this new gaming experience opportunity that I'm not already getting from my D&D games that I run? Because I'm a forever DM, so for me it's just, you know, it's just what rule system am I going to run? Who can I get on board with playing it? I do need a bit of a gap there. Good. water. But I certainly like the idea of farming other game systems for mechanical or narrative ideas. Like, ultimately, it doesn't matter what game you play as long as what you're doing is creating value for your table. Whether you're playing a completely different game or just borrowing inspiration from those games. Either way, it's totally legit. But yeah, if I wanted to build a ratcheting tension sort of game, that's a sort of mechanic that I would definitely add. Like, you have to go into these spaces, but going into these spaces terrifies you. I had this idea about a type of role-playing game, not necessarily its own, like a type of dungeon delving, where all the characters played either like a psychoanalyst, like a psychoanalyst, or an exorcist, or a mental therapist, and the dungeons that you delve into were different psychological damage of the patient's psyche, that as you explored into the spaces of psychological damage, they're expressed as these different caverns of ideas inside of a person. And as you moved from one region to another, they would feel different things inside of their body that would shift and move, like connecting with the trauma. So as you unearth these things, these creatures would arise that you don't fight, but you have to free. They're stuck and poisoning the innards of their host. And they don't want to be there any more than the host wants them there, but they're stuck. So your characters are going in with weapons, not so much to attack the things that are in there, but to defend themselves against the psychic damage that these things emit as they're crying in pain. And the tools that you're using are attempting to chip them out and free them while you're enduring this the psychic AoE damage that's happening to your team. So you have to buffer each other and keep your own morale up, while at the larger meta level, you're engaging with the actual host. So you'd have these exorcists that project their psyche into the trauma of their patients inside of their body, which creates the dungeons. So you've got these two planes that you're existing at the same time. You're consoling the creature or your patient that you're delving into, and then you're dealing with the entities that exist inside of them at the same time. So you can have this sort of point crawl thing that's themed not around locations, but around experiences and traumas. And low key, I'm thinking you could build it as a solo project where you could random up dungeons that have different feelings that are attached to them as a guideline for people to start analyzing themselves, so that they can start forming relationships with the feelings that they have inside of themselves, so that they'd be able to go in and discover their own, become their own trauma team, to go inside and find how they can spend time with the things that hurt them, so that they can learn how to chip away at the things that traumatize themselves. If I were to build my own role-playing game, kind of low-key, that might be a theme I want to explore. It's I don't know if anything like that exists out there or not, but it's a subtle, that's how I spend a lot of my own private time when I'm in meditation with myself, of trying to understand the feelings that, because I'm a disabled kid that grew up in Missouri. I carry trauma. It's a reality of it. I carry trauma, and I've spent a lot of time in counseling and therapy and stuff like that for me to be able to grasp the limitations that I have in my life. And it's led to a lot of these types of conversations of, my counselors are really, they're explorers very much so with me, and that they're interested in being able to chase down the feelings that I have inside. I think low key, this idea of this adventure is is sort of an explanation of the process that I go through in my own counseling. But that's just something I've been thinking about recently. I think it's kind of cool. And this guy's off perspective. But am I okay with it being off perspective? It has kind of a slide to it. God, fuck. I think the answer is no. I'm not okay with it. So I'm going to grab this. Clip that. But that's an idea that I've been thinking about for a little while now. And by a little while, I think like I mean like a couple of years. There. But it's an idea. It's a thing that I could eventually develop. I like the self-exploration, like quote-unquote solo adventuring aspect of it, which is like a low-key way of you to be able to play with psychological stuff. Yeah. Absolutely. It's part of the it's the human condition. It's what we're here for. Processing these things. I mean, we could dive into my own personal philosophies about stuff, but I think as an emotional creature, we're specifically designed to be able to hunt down these things that are so lost that they don't think that they're loved anymore, and that there's no obvious means for them to be able to escape their circumstances, and we're these emotional carrying creatures that are capable of processing these feelings. I'm gonna get rid of these stilts right now. They're creating false flags for me. Gotta get those out of the way. Now let's look at rebuilding this here. But yeah, I think that'd be a really cool game. I don't know if it'd be a really cool game, but it'd be an interesting piece. It'd be interesting, and it'd be really fun to illustrate because you can do all sorts of horror stuff, but it could dive so far into flag territory. Like the whole thing is about like exploring flag territory, you know. Like I don't know if I'd beer and pretzel 4 or 5 friends with it, but like a single DM as like a pseudo like as a guide. Like you wouldn't call him a DM, you like call him you'd call him like a Sherpa. I don't know what you'd call him, like a soul Sherpa or a soul guide, or who knows. I don't know. It still needs to bake, but I think that could become a thing eventually. And I think if it did, I think I'd be really proud of it. Almost there, Kearney. Stay on target. How are we doing on time? Oh shit, it's 7:50. We're almost gonna bounce. All right, almost time for us to go. I'm happy with where we're at, how this is coming along. I really need to make sure that I don't sweat myself over the perspective details too heavily. Otherwise, I'm gonna get lost again. I'm gonna end up getting pissed off and erasing things when I don't necessarily need to. So I need to stay aware of where we're at. But so far, yeah, that feels wrong. Let's take that all back and see where we end up at. I think I need a larger batch of... Oops. What? Where are you coming in at? Oh, that makes sense. Right. These things. What the fuck? What is actually going on back here? Oh, that's what happened. Here, okay, let's try that again. Like that. Cut, paste, merge. There. Now we're good. Now I can go into here. And since this is the last thing I'm probably going to be doing today, let's see if I can just skew shift perspective on this and get it lined up okay. There we go. Nice. Here. This is specifically off angle because of reasons. Construction. Because of construction. Merge down. All right, it's 7:56. This is probably a good place for me to stop. So what I will do off camera tonight is do this over here. And then I'll put roofs on stuff. I'll probably start detailing. I'm going to see if I can successfully merge the scale of this upfront structure with whatever the buildings evolve into as we continue moving forward. We're pretty far back here. Over here, we're not seeing a significant like this is a 2-story, 3-story building when I put the roof on it. So that means 2 or 3 stories over here. So like 2 or 3 stories would be like maybe like that might be 2 stories here. That's actually really, really big. This is 2 stories here. Like this is a 2-story building. That might be too big. But that's what we're trying to figure out right now. So hopefully we'll be able to transition in smoothly from super small scale back here to decent detail here and find like this in here is the key. Here and here, these 2 locations here are key to transitioning from this distant detail to this upfront detail. So that's my endeavor. I suspect we're going to be, yeah, that's the space I'm gonna be in tonight. So anyway, that's it for today. I'm gonna kick out of here. I'm gonna be back. I have another session of martial powers today at lunch. That will be in about, I think that's going to be around 12:30. It's about 8 o'clock here in Seattle now. So in about 4.5 hours, somewhere between 4 and 5 hours probably is where I'm going to end up at. Jumping back online here and tearing down some. We're going to be working on Monk of the Open Hand today, which probably means we're going to have to take a look at the Unearthed Arcana release for the next D&D. In 2024 because they've offered a revised open hand there. So I want to see where that's sitting. So yeah, we're going to spend some time today at lunch, probably an hour and a half. And there you go. We do this every morning. And then we do design stuff often at lunch. And then we do cartography and token production in the evenings. For various projects, we're doing an Eberron adventure on Mondays and Thursday nights. We're doing a book cover commission on Saturday mornings. We're doing the Martial Power development system at lunch times, and then here in the morning we're doing Spelljammer. Once Spelljammer finishes, Eberron will become our morning project, and then we'll be working on game development for our playtesting and my homebrew campaign. We'll transition to doing that in the evenings as well. So, hey, perfect timing. I will see you guys later. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks, Karen. And I'll see you guys hopefully in a few hours. So, later, Gators.